5 years had passed since the first hybrid children were born on Celestia. What had begun as an experimental collaboration to save a dying species had evolved into something much more profound, a thriving community of human Celestian families, and a new generation of hybrid children who belonged to both worlds, and neither Linda Parker now served as the permanent ambassador to Celestia, overseeing the growing human settlement that had been established near the capital city. Nearly 1,000 humans now lived and worked alongside Celestians in what many called the greatest cultural exchange in history. Princess Celine's daughter Lyra, now 5 years old, was the unofficial symbol of this new era, already showing remarkable abilities that combined the best aspects of both species. She had the Celestians' natural affinity for energy fields and the human capacity for creative adaptation. Her mind developed faster than pure Celestian children, while her physical growth followed the Celestian pattern, making her tall for her age but still smaller than adult Celestians. Linda watched Lyra playing in the community garden with other hybrid children and a few pure human and Celestian children who had been born since the collaboration began. The children showed no awareness of the political significance they represented. They simply played together, inventing games that incorporated elements from both cultures. Dr. Olivia Stone approached Linda carrying data tablets, her own hybrid son, Malik, walking beside her. The boy had darker skin than most Celestians, but the same distinctive silver eyes that now had visible pupils, a common trait among the hybrids. The latest health assessment results, she said, handing Linda the tablet. All positive. The hybrid children continue to show none of the genetic degradation that affected pure Celestians, and their immune systems are remarkably robust. This had been one of the most significant discoveries. The hybrid children rarely became ill, their combined immune systems providing protection against diseases from both worlds. This unexpected benefit had led to breakthroughs in medical research benefiting all three populations. How are the new Celestian births? Linda asked. Olivia smiled, widely up 20% from last year. The genetic therapy based on human DNA has been successful in treating some forms of Celestian infertility, not as effective as direct hybridization, but enough to make a difference. This had been Queen Valora's priority, ensuring that pure Celestians could continue alongside the hybrid population. The Queen believed diversity was strength and wanted to preserve Celestian culture while allowing it to evolve. A small ship appeared in the sky above them, descending toward the landing area. Linda recognized it as a Celestian transport returning from Earth, where a delegation had been negotiating expanded trade agreements. Princess Celine emerged from the ship, her regal bearing unmistakable even at a distance. When she spotted Lyra playing in the garden, she immediately changed direction. Heading toward her daughter, Linda and Olivia moved to meet her. How was Earth? Celine asked, embracing Linda while keeping her eyes on her daughter. Fascinating as always, Linda replied. The United Nations has officially recognized hybrid citizens as having dual heritage rights. Your speech to the General Assembly was apparently quite moving. Celine smiled. I simply spoke the truth. Our people's destinies are now intertwined. They walked together toward the garden where Lyra had spotted her mother and was running toward them with the boundless energy of childhood. Mother, mother, Lyra called out, switching effortlessly between Celestian and English as many hybrid children did. I made something for you. She held up a crystal that glowed with changing colors, a traditional Celestian art form that usually took adults years to master. It's beautiful, Celine said, kneeling to embrace her daughter. Over dinner that evening, Celine shared news from Earth. The expansion of the collaboration program was proceeding with new volunteer families from both species. Joining scientists now believed that, with careful genetic management, the hybrid population could expand without risk of instability. But there was other news as well. Some Earth nations remained hesitant to fully embrace the collaboration, citing concerns about cultural preservation and unknown long-term effects. They weren't openly hostile, but maintained a cautious distance on Celestia. Similar divisions persisted while General Cora remained imprisoned for her sabotage attempt. Her ideology lived on in remote communities that refused to integrate with humans or accept hybrid children. These Celestian purists were a minority but vocal in their opposition. After dinner, as Lyra was put to bed, Celine, Linda, and Olivia met with Queen Valora in her private chambers, To discuss more sensitive matters, we have received a communication from the Arcturian Confederation, the Queen said. Referring to another advanced species that had maintained distant but cordial relations with Celestians for centuries. They are concerned about our collaboration with humans, seeing it as potentially destabilizing to galactic order. Linda wasn't surprised other species had been watching the human-Celestian partnership with interest and sometimes alarm. The unprecedented genetic sharing violated long-standing taboos among some older spacefaring civilizations. What do they propose, Celine? Asked. The Queen's expression was grim. They suggest containment, limiting human Celestian contact to current levels and restricting hybrid children from traveling beyond our two-world. Sylvia reacted with immediate concern that would make them second-class citizens. Exactly, Valora agreed. Which is why I have rejected their suggestion. But we must be prepared for potential consequences. The Arcturians have influence among the galactic community. This was the first serious external challenge to their collaboration. Linda realized until now. Other species had merely observed, but active opposition could create new problems. The next morning, Linda met with the human council that represented Earth's interests on Celestia, sharing the Queen's information about Arcturian concern. Counselor Elena Ramirez, a diplomat from Mexico, voiced what many were thinking. They fear us. Not because we're a threat, but because we've proven that different species can live together successfully. It challenges the separation they've maintained for millennia. Dave Wilson, the security representative, nodded. It's a paradigm shift. Some species have maintained power by keeping others divided and competing. If humans and Celestians can merge successfully, what stops others from doing the same? Linda understood the political implications went far beyond their two worlds. The hybrid children represented a new possibility in the galaxy, one that threatened established power structures. Over the next several weeks, Linda worked with Queen Valora and Princess Celine to develop a response to growing external pressure. The Arcturians had begun reaching out to Earth governments directly, suggesting that the collaboration was moving too quickly and should be scaled back. Their strategy focused on the hybrid children themselves as Lyra approached her 6th birthday. A celebration was planned that would showcase the success of their collaboration. Reporters and dignitaries from Earth and Celestian allies would be invited to meet the children and see firsthand what had been accomplished. The day of the celebration arrived with the central plaza of the human Celestian settlement decorated with symbols from both worlds. The hybrid children, nearly 50 of them now, would perform a ceremony they had created themselves, combining elements of both cultures. As guests arrived, including several Arcturian observers, Linda felt the tension beneath the festive atmosphere. Much rested on today's impression. Princess Celine opened the ceremony with a speech that acknowledged both the successes and challenges of their partnership. We did not choose an easy path, she said, but we chose a necessary one. Two peoples facing different crises found in each other, not just solutions, but connection. The children's performance began with Lyra leading them in a dance that incorporated Celestian energy manipulation, human rhythmic movements, and something entirely new, elements that neither parent species had created. The Arcturian observers watched with undisguised fascination. Afterward, as guests mingled with the families, one of the Arcturian delegates approached Linda, his tall gray form towering over her. Impressive, he said, his translated voice lacking inflection. Your offspring are more advanced than anticipated, Linda corrected him gently. They are not just offspring, ambassador, they are children with their own identities and potential. The Arcturian studied her for a moment. You humans value individuality highly, it seems, an unusual trait among young species. Before Linda could respond, Lyra appeared at her side, looking up at the Arcturian. Without fear or hesitation. Hello, she said in perfect Arcturian, surprising. The delegate. Would you like to see what I made? It's a model of your home system. The Arcturian followed the child to a display where she had indeed created an accurate model of the Arcturian home system, using Celestian crystal technology and human artistic techniques. The delegate spent nearly an hour talking with Lyra and other hybrid children, his initial reserve gradually giving way to genuine interest. That evening, as the celebration continued, Queen Valora took Linda aside, her expression thoughtful. The Arcturian lead delegate has requested a private audience tomorrow, she said. I believe our demonstration has had the desired effect. Linda nodded. The children are our best ambassadors. They represent possibility in its purest form. 6 months after the human scientific team arrived on Celestia, the first phase of the genetic collaboration was ready to begin. 7 human volunteers had come forward, all scientists or doctors who understood the risks and implications of the project. Linda had been surprised when Dr. Olivia Stone volunteered to be among them. "Are you sure?" Linda had asked when Olivia informed her of her decision. "You're the lead geneticist?" Olivia had smiled. "I didn't come all this way just to observe history. I want to be part of it. Besides, my genetic profile shows particularly strong compatibility with Celestian DNA. The procedure would involve creating embryos using genetic material from both species, then carefully monitoring their development in specialized environments the Celestians had created. Princess Selene would provide her genetic material, as would 6 other female Celestians who had volunteered despite opposition from General Chorus faction. The day before the procedure was set to begin, Linda received an urgent message from Naro, asking to meet in the Crystal Gardens at dusk. When she arrived, Naro was already waiting, his usual calm demeanor replaced with obvious anxiety. "Ambassador Parker," he said quietly, "there is a plot against the collaboration. General Cora and her supporters plan to sabotage the procedure." Linda's heart raced. "What do you mean, sabotage?" "How they have infiltrated the medical team." Naro explained. "One of the technicians has been replaced with Chorus, loyalist. I overheard them discussing altering the genetic sequences to ensure failure." This was worse than Linda had feared. Not just opposition, but active sabotage that could endanger the entire project and the relationship between their species. "Have you told the Queen?" Linda asked. Naro shook his head. "No one would believe me without proof. I am just a consort. My words carry little weight against a general, but you as the human ambassador." Linda understood immediately. "I need to warn Dr. Stone and Princess Selene without alerting the saboteurs. We need to catch them in the act." That night, Linda met secretly with Olivia and Selene in the princess's private chambers, explaining what Naro had told her. "We can't delay the procedure." Selene said it would give Cora time to find another way to interfere. Olivia agreed but suggested a solution. "We modify the protocol without informing the full team, a need-to-know basis. Only staff. We are absolutely certain of." The next morning, as the procedure began, Linda watched from an observation room with Queen Valora and several council members. The mood was tense but hopeful, as Dr. Stone and the Celestian scientists worked in the sterile laboratory below. Linda knew that Olivia had implemented their secret plan, establishing redundant systems and having trusted team members verify each step of the process, without explaining why she had also prepared a special set of genetic markers that would make any tampering immediately evident. Halfway through the procedure, one of the Celestian technicians made a move to access the primary genetic sequencer. Olivia intercepted smoothly, asking for assistance from another technician. At that exact moment, the alarm went off. Security forces entered immediately. As Olivia pointed out the evidence of tampering, the technician was revealed to be one of General Cora's military officers in disguise. The sabotage had been prevented, but barely. Queen Valora was furious, ordering the immediate arrest of the infiltrator and an investigation into General Cora's involvement. The procedure continued under heightened security, and by day's end, 14 embryos had been successfully created, 7 with Princess Selene's genetic material. In the aftermath, General Cora was removed from the council pending investigation. Her supporters lost significant influence, and the collaboration proceeded with renewed commitment from both species. 2 weeks later, Linda stood with Princess Selene in the Life Center, looking at the developing embryos floating in their specialized containers. Each one represented a potential future, a bridge between human and Celestian. 5 of Selene's embryos showed strong development. The other 2 had stopped growing naturally, a higher success rate than pure Celestian reproduction had achieved in generations. "I never thought I would have this chance," Selene said softly. Her hand pressed against the transparent wall, separating her from the tiny lives that carried her genetic heritage. Linda felt the weight of the moment. These were not just scientific specimens, they were the beginning of something entirely new in the universe. Dr. Stone joined them, her expression serious but satisfied. The development is proceeding better than we projected. She said the human genetic contribution seems to be stabilizing the Celestian degradation patterns just as we hoped. What will they look like? Celine asked the question. Everyone wondered. But few had voice. Olivia smiled. It's too early to know for certain. But based on the genetic expressions we're seeing, they'll likely have characteristics of both species. Your height and some physical features, our cognitive patterns and immune system strengths. Truly the best of both over. The next 3 months, Linda divided her time between diplomatic duties and observing the progress of the embryos. Human governments had been fully briefed on the developments and after initial shock had begun preparing for the implications of successful hybridization. The Celestian public had also been informed with mixed reactions. Many celebrated the potential salvation of their species. Others, particularly in regions loyal to General Cora, protested what they saw as the dilution of Celestian purity. One morning, Linda was awakened by an urgent message from Queen Valora, requesting her immediate presence in the Life Center when she arrived. She found the Queen Princess, Celine, and Dr. Stone standing around one of the development chambers. Time. Olivia said. Simply, Linda watched in awe as the first hybrid-born child in the history of either species entered the world, a daughter of Princess Celine and Dr. James Chen, one of the human volunteers. The baby had lavender skin lighter than pure Celestians and only 2 arms like a human. Her eyes were large but with visible pupils unlike the solid silver of Celestian eyes. She's beautiful. Celine whispered, tears falling as she gently took her daughter, the first royal child born on Celestia in 50 years, and the first of her kind in the universe. Queen Valora looked on her usual regal composure, softened by emotion. She has your features, Celine, but something of her human father as well. Dr. Stone conducted immediate medical scans confirming what they had hoped. The child was healthy with strong vital signs and no evidence of the genetic degradation that plagued pure Celestian infants. Over the next week, 6 more hybrid children were born, 5 to Celestian mothers and human fathers, 1 to Dr. Olivia Stone and a Celestian male volunteer. Each child was unique, some showing more Celestian traits, others more human, but all healthy and vigorous. Linda watched as the Celestian public's attitude shifted with each successful birth. It was one thing to debate abstract genetic collaboration, but quite another to reject these very real children who represented hope for a dying species. Even some of General Cora's former supporters began to change their position. The evidence was undeniable. The hybridization had succeeded where centuries of Celestian science had failed. 1 month after the births, Linda sat with Olivia in the gardens, watching Celine introduce her daughter, now named Lyra, to the Celestian Council, including newly appointed council members who had replaced General Cora and her closest allies. It worked better than we could have hoped. Olivia said the genetic markers are stable. The children are thriving, and preliminary projections suggest they'll be fertile when they mature, meaning this isn't just a one-generation solution. Linda nodded. This changes everything, not just for Celestians but for humans too. We've proven that different species can combine successfully. It opens possibilities we never imagined. Beyond the science, Linda had watched as Celestian society began to transform. Mothers who had given up hope of having children now volunteered for the program. Human scientists who had come to study were forming personal connections with Celestians that transcended professional collaboration. News had spread to other alien species who had been observing the situation, some with concern, others with interest. Celestians had been respected throughout the galaxy for their advanced technology and peaceful nature, but had been seen as a fading power. Now they were at the center of a revolutionary development. That evening, Queen Valora summoned Linda to the throne room for a private audience. Ambassador Parker, she said formally but with warmth, you have witnessed history being made here on Celestia. Linda bowed slightly. It has been my honor, Your Majesty, the Queen continued. I have received communication from your government proposing a formal alliance between our peoples. Not just scientific collaboration, but cultural exchange, defensive cooperation, and shared exploration of space. Linda had been briefed on the proposal, but waited for the Queen to continue. I have accepted, Valora said. Earth and Celestia will be the first members of what I hope will become a galactic community of cooperating worlds. Our children, both pure and hybrid, will inherit this legacy. As Linda prepared to return to Earth to report in person, She visited Princess Celine and baby Lyra. One last time, the child, now 2 months old, was already showing signs of advanced development, her eyes tracking movement with awareness, unusual in Celestian infants. "You'll return, won't you?" Celine asked as Linda said her goodbye. "Of course," Linda promised. "This is just the beginning of our story, not the end." Linda Parker stood at the viewing window of the Starship Explorer as it approached the alien planet known as Celestia. She had been chosen as the human ambassador due to her background in interspecies relations and her calm demeanor. The blue and purple world grew larger as they neared the atmosphere. Linda felt her heart beat faster. This was the moment humanity had been waiting for, first contact with an advanced alien civilization that had reached out to Earth just 6 months ago. "Captain." Olivia Reed approached and stood beside her. "Are you ready for this, Ambassador Parker?" she asked, her voice steady despite the historic nature of their mission. Linda nodded, trying to appear more confident than she felt. "I hope so, Captain. This is what I trained for all those years." The Celestians were known to be a female-dominated society where the females were physically larger and held all positions of power. Males in their species were smaller and focused on creative pursuits and childcare. This social structure fascinated Linda, who had studied various power dynamics across human cultures. As the ship entered the atmosphere, Linda watched the landscape come into view. Vast purple forests stretched across the surface with tall, crystalline structures that must be their cities rising up through the trees. The landing was smooth as the Celestian technology guided their ship to the designated area, a large open plaza surrounded by those same crystal towers that sparkled in the alien sunlight. When the doors opened, Linda was the first to step out. The air was breathable as their probes had confirmed, but it smelled different, sweet and slightly metallic. A small delegation of Celestians waited for them. Queen Valora of the Celestians stepped forward. She stood nearly 8 feet tall with lavender skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Her forearms were adorned with intricate patterns that Linda later learned signified her royal lineage. Her eyes were large and completely silver with no visible pupils. "Welcome to Celestia, humans." The Queen spoke, her voice melodic yet powerful. "We have awaited this meeting for many cycles." Linda bowed as she had been instructed by the preliminary communication team. "Greetings, Queen Valora. I am Linda Parker, representative of Earth. We come in peace and friendship." The Queen tilted her head, studying Linda with those silver eyes. "You are smaller than I expected," she said, "but I sense strength in you. Come, we have prepared a welcoming ceremony." The human delegation followed the Celestians into the largest crystal tower, which opened to reveal a vast hall with ceilings that seemed to reach the sky. Inside, hundreds of Celestians waited, all females. Linda noticed the males would be introduced. Later, she was told, the ceremony was beautiful. Celestians performed a dance that involved all 4 of their arms moving in perfect synchronization, creating patterns in the air that seemed to glow and leave traces of light behind them. Linda was mesmerized afterward. Queen Valora took Linda to a private chamber for their first official discussion. The room was circular with strange plants growing from the walls and ceiling, giving the impression of being inside a living organism. "We have watched your planet for many years," the Queen explained. "Humans interest us. You are young as a spacefaring species, but you have potential." Linda nodded, trying to process that Celestians had been observing Earth. "May I ask why you decided to contact us now?" The Queen was silent for a moment before responding. "Our species faces a crisis, Linda Parker. We are dying out." This was not what Linda had expected to hear. The Celestians seemed so advanced, their technology far beyond human capabilities. How could such a powerful species be in decline? Genetic degradation. The Queen continued, "Over thousands of years, our reproduction has become increasingly difficult. We have fewer births each cycle, and those born often do not survive to adulthood. Our scientists believe we have reached an evolutionary dead end." Linda felt a chill despite the warm temperature of the room. "What does this have to do with humans?" she asked, though she suspected the answer. The Queen moved closer, her silver eyes reflecting Linda's image back at her. "Our scientists discovered something remarkable about human DNA. It contains genetic markers that are compatible with our own. This is extremely rare in the galaxy." Linda took a deep breath. "So you want to study us?" not just study the Queen said we believe humans might be the key to our survival through genetic sharing. We could potentially save our species, and in return, we would share our technology and knowledge with Earth. The implications were enormous. Linda knew this went far beyond her authority to negotiate, but she also recognized the historic opportunity it presented both for helping the Celestians and for advancing human technology. I would need to consult with my government, Linda said carefully. This is a significant proposal that requires much discussion. The Queen nodded with understanding. Of course, we do not expect an immediate answer, but time is precious to us. Each cycle we lose more of our people. That evening, Linda sat in her assigned quarters within the Crystal Tower trying to organize her thoughts for the report she would send back to Earth. The Celestians' proposal was both an incredible opportunity and a diplomatic minefield. A soft chime indicated someone at her door. Linda called out to enter, and was surprised when a Celestian male appeared. He was much shorter than the females, perhaps 6 feet tall, with the same lavender skin, but more delicate features. "Greetings, Linda Parker," he said, his voice lighter than the females. "I am Naro Consort, to Queen Valora. I have been sent to answer any questions you might have about our society." Linda gestured for him to sit. "Thank you, Naro. I do have many questions." Naro explained how Celestian society functioned. The females handled governance, military, and science. While males focused on arts education and raising the young, it was not forced but had evolved naturally due to their biological differences. When Linda asked about the reproductive crisis, Naro became somber. "Our children are precious and rare," he said. "The Queen herself has only produced one heir in her long life, a daughter named Princess Celine, who you will meet tomorrow." Linda learned that Princess Celine was considered unusual among Celestians. She was more curious about other species and had been the one to suggest contacting humans after studying their broadcasts. As Naro was leaving, he paused at the door. "Ambassador Parker," he said quietly, "there is much riding on your visit, but please know that not all Celestians agree. With the Queen's plan, some believe we should accept our fate rather than dilute our species with outside genetics." This information gave Linda pause, suggesting internal political divisions that could complicate their mission. The next morning, Linda met Princess Celine, who, despite being the Queen's daughter, looked quite different. Her skin was a deeper purple and she had only 3 arms, a genetic anomaly, Naro had explained. "Linda Parker, I have wanted to meet a human for so long," the princess said with genuine enthusiasm. "I have studied your music and art. It is so different from ours, so full of emotion." Linda found herself immediately liking the princess, who seemed less formal than the Queen. They spent the morning touring one of the Celestian cities with Celine, explaining their sustainable technology that drew energy from the planet's magnetic field. When they reached a high overlook that showed the vast purple forests beyond the city, Celine turned to Linda with a serious expression. "Do you think your people will help us?" she asked directly. Linda chose her words carefully. "I believe humans will want to help, but the specific nature of that help will require careful consideration. There are ethical questions about genetic sharing." Celine nodded. "I understand better than most the risks and benefits." She gestured to her 3 arms. "This mutation is becoming more common among our young. It is one of many signs of our genetic decline." As they talked, Linda realized that the future relationship between humans and Celestians might depend on her initial diplomatic work. Here the responsibility was enormous, but so was the potential for both species. That night, as Celestia's 3 moons rose in the sky, Linda drafted her first report to Earth, carefully detailing the Celestians' proposal and the implications it could have for humanity's future in the stars. This was just the beginning of what would become the most important diplomatic mission in human history. 3 weeks had passed since Linda Parker first set foot on Celestia, and each day brought new revelations about the alien civilization and their desperate situation. Princess Celine had become Linda's regular guide, showing her the vast libraries, where Celestian knowledge was stored in crystal matrices that could be accessed by touch. The technology was unlike anything humans had developed today. Celine was taking Linda to one of their medical facilities where she would see firsthand the reproductive crisis affecting the Celestians. The medical center was housed in a shorter crystal structure that pulsed with gentle blue light inside Celestian females in white garments, moved between rooms carrying equipment that Linda couldn't identify. "This is our life center," Celine explained, "where our scientists work to help those who wish to have children. The success rate is less than 10%. Now Linda was led into a large chamber where several Celestian embryos floated in transparent containers. Most looked underdeveloped or had visible abnormalities. Linda felt a deep sadness seeing the struggling beginnings of life. "Our genetic diversity has become too limited," Celine said quietly. "We have tried everything: selective breeding, genetic modifications, even cloning, but the results are always the same. Eventual failure." In a private room afterward, Celine showed Linda the research their scientists had conducted on human DNA samples gathered from the broadcasts Earth had been sending into space for decades. "See here." The princess pointed to a holographic display comparing Celestian and human genetic structures. "There are key complementary markers here. And here, our scientists believe human genetic material could stabilize these degrading sequences." In Ardina, Linda studied the display. Though much of the science was beyond her expertise, the Celestian research was impressively thorough. They had been studying humans for longer than Linda had initially realized. "Your proposal would involve direct genetic sharing between our species?" Linda said carefully, trying to understand the full implications. Celine nodded. "There are several possibilities, from artificial combination of genetic material to more traditional means. The details would need to be worked out with your scientists, but the goal would be creating viable Celestian humane offspring that could introduce genetic diversity back into our population." Linda had sent multiple reports back to Earth, and the response had been a mixture of excitement and caution. A team of human geneticists was already preparing to journey to Celestia, but they were still months away. That evening, Linda was invited to dine with Queen Valora and her council, a rare honor for an outsider. The meal consisted of strange fruits and vegetables that had been specially tested to ensure they were safe for human consumption. During the meal, one of the council members, General Cora, a tall Celestian with battle markings on her arms, spoke directly to Linda. "Your species is young, ambassador, barely out of your planetary cradle. Why should we trust our genetic future to you?" she asked, her silver eyes intense, before Linda could respond. Queen Valora interjected. "We have few options, Cora. The human's genetic compatibility is our best hope." "But at what cost?" another counselor named Vira asked. "Will we remain Celestians or become something else entirely?" Linda recognized the debate reflected similar concerns happening on Earth. Some humans worried about the ethical implications of creating hybrid beings, while others saw it as the next step in evolution. "I understand your concerns," Linda said carefully. "My own people are having similar discussions. Any collaboration would need to respect both species' autonomy and dignity." Later that night, as Linda returned to her quarters, she found Naro waiting by her door, his expression troubled. "Ambassador Parker," he said quietly, "I need to speak with you about something important." Inside her room, Naro revealed that not everyone supported the Queen's plan for genetic sharing. A faction led by General Cora believed that Celestians should either find their own solution or accept their fate with dignity. "They see collaboration with humans as the end of pure Celestian culture," he explained. "They fear your people will eventually overwhelm us through superior reproduction." Linda had suspected such divisions, but hearing it confirmed made her mission more complicated. If Celestian society was fractured over this issue, any agreement Earth made could be undermined. Naro hesitated before continuing. "There is more. Princess Celine is not just an advocate for human collaboration. She is personally invested." "What do you mean?" Linda asked. "The princess has been unable to conceive a child, despite multiple attempts. Naro said her genetic mutations make it nearly impossible. She sees in humans not just hope for our species, but for herself." This personal connection explained Celine's enthusiasm, but also raised questions about her objectivity. Linda made notes to include this information in her next report. The following day, Linda was invited to observe a Celestian council meeting. It was held in a circular chamber with the counselors seated according to their status. Queen Valora at the highest position, General Cora at her right hand. The debate was heated even through the translation devices. Linda could hear the passion in their voices as they argued about the human proposal. "We have monitored Earth for centuries. General Cora said. Humans are violent, territorial, and unpredictable. They have nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times. Why would we entrust our genetic future to them? Science Minister Lyra responded because despite their flaws, humans have shown remarkable adaptability. Their genetic diversity is precisely because they have survived so many challenges that diversity is what we lack. Linda watched as the council became increasingly divided. Some supporting the Queen's plan, others backing General Cora's position of isolation. Several looked to Princess Celine, who sat quietly observing. Finally, Celine spoke, her voice calm amid the tension. I have spent more time with humans than any of you, she said. Looking at Linda, Ambassador Parker and her people have shown honesty and compassion. They have not demanded our technology in exchange for help. They seek mutual benefit. The council fell silent as Celine continued. We speak of preserving pure Celestian culture. But what is our culture, if not our people? If we die out, what does it matter how pure our genetics were? Our ancestors adapted to survive, and so must. Linda was moved by Celine's speech and could see its effect on the council. Even General Cora seemed less certain in her opposition. Queen Valora ended the session by announcing that a formal proposal would be presented once the human scientists arrived. In the meantime, Linda would continue to learn about Celestian society and share human knowledge. As Linda left the council chamber, Princess Celine joined her, walking silently for a moment before speaking. Did I say too much, Ambassador? She asked. Linda shook her head. No, Your Highness. You spoke from the heart. Sometimes that is what people need to hear beyond politics and science. Aileen smiled, a gesture she had learned from Linda. I believe our peoples can help each other, she said, not just through genetics but through cultural exchange. Humans have music and art forms we have never imagined, and we have knowledge that could help Earth overcome its environmental challenges. Linda nodded in agreement, looking out at the Celestian landscape with its purple forests and crystal cities. She could envision a future where both species work together, sharing their strengths. But she also knew the path forward would not be easy. There would be resistance on both sides. Fear of the unknown and loss of identity were powerful forces, whether human or Celestian. That night, Linda recorded another message for Earth, trying to convey not just the facts but the feeling of being on this alien world among these people, who despite their differences shared so many of the same hopes and fears as humans. What began as a diplomatic mission was becoming something more profound, a potential turning point for both species. Linda Parker didn't know what the future held, but she was certain of one thing. Nothing would ever be the same again. The human scientific team arrived on Celestia 2 months after Linda's initial landing. The 5 specialists in genetics, reproductive medicine, and xenobiology brought equipment and expertise that would determine if the Celestian proposal was viable. Dr. Olivia Stone, the lead geneticist, was a brilliant woman with a reputation for revolutionary work in genetic therapy. She approached Linda shortly after their arrival, her face serious after her first briefing with the Celestian scientists. We need to talk privately, she said. In Linda's quarters, Dr. Stone displayed data on her tablet. Their preliminary analysis of the Celestian genetic samples, it's remarkable. She explained the Celestian DNA uses the same basic building blocks as ours, but with significant differences in how they're arranged. Theoretically, compatibility is possible, but the ethical implications are enormous. Inda nodded. I know that's why your team is here, to determine not just if we can help, but how we should help. What the Celestians are asking, Dr. Stone continued, would create a new hybrid species, neither fully human nor fully Celestian. Are we ready for that responsibility? Before Linda could respond, her communication device chimed with a message from Princess Celine, requesting her presence in the royal gardens. I'll continue reviewing the data, Dr. Stone said as Linda prepared to leave. But tell the princess that I'll need to meet with her soon. Her genetic profile is particularly important to our analysis. The royal gardens were unlike anything on Earth. Plants that seemed part crystal grew alongside flowing water that glowed with bioluminescent organisms. Princess Celine waited on a bench made from a single piece of polished stone. Linda, I have news, Celine said as Linda approached the council. Has voted to proceed with a genetic collaboration trial, but with conditions. Linda sat beside the princess. What conditions? Only volunteers from both species will participate. Celine explained. And any offspring will have special status in our society with the right to choose their path when they come of age. It was a significant development suggesting the Celestians had moved past some of their internal disagreements. There is more, Celine continued. I have volunteered to be the first Celestian participant. Linda was not surprised given what Naro had told her about Seleni's personal stake in the project. It still raised concerns about the political implications. Are you certain that's wise, Your Highness? Linda asked. Given your position, any child you have would potentially have a claim to leadership. Celine nodded precisely. Which means our people would have to accept the new hybrid future or reject their own royal lineage. It is a statement of commitment from the highest level of our society. Linda could see the strategy behind the move, but also recognized the personal courage it required for Celine to put herself forward as the first test subject. Dr. Stone wants to meet with you, Linda mentioned. Celine's genetic profile is apparently of particular interest. Before Celine could respond, a commotion erupted at the garden's entrance. Several Celestian guards appeared, accompanying General Cora, who approached with purpose. Princess Celine, she said, formally with evident disapproval, I have come to inform you that the Opposition Council requests your presence to discuss your recent declarations. Celine stood tall, facing the general. I have made my decision, Cora, in accordance with the majority. Vote. The general stepped closer, her voice lowering. You risk everything, Your Highness, the purity of the royal line, the future of our people, for what a desperate gamble with alien creatures we barely understand. Linda remained silent, watching the tension between the two Celestians. This was internal politics. She had no place in. Celine responded calmly. I risk everything to save everything, General. Sometimes preservation requires change. After Cora departed, Celine turned to Linda with a sigh. The opposition grows more vocal. She explained, they believe I am betraying our ancestors by volunteering. Over the next week, Dr. Stone's team worked closely with Celestian scientists establishing protocols for the genetic collaboration trial. Human volunteers would be needed, but the scientific teams wanted to ensure safety and ethical guidelines were in place. First, Linda attended many of these meetings, translating complex scientific concepts into diplomatic language that both sides could agree to. The work was challenging, but progress was steady. One evening, as Linda reviewed reports in her quarters, Dr. Stone arrived looking troubled. We've found something unusual, she said, bringing up genetic scans on her tablet. Princess Celine's DNA contains markers that appear almost human. What? Linda asked, surprised. How is that possible? Dr. Stone shook her head. We don't know, but approximately 5% of her genetic structure shares similarities with human DNA that don't appear in other Celestian samples. It's as if there was some contact between our species in the distant past. The implications were staggering. If humans and Celestians had encountered each other before, perhaps even interbred, it would rewrite the understanding of both species' histories. Should we tell them? Linda asked. Dr. Stone nodded. They have a right to know, but we should present it carefully. This could support their hybridization proposal, or it could inflame the opposition, who might see it as contamination. Linda arranged a private meeting with Queen Valora, Princess Celine, and the head Celestian scientist, Dr. Myra, to share the discovery as Dr. Stone explained her findings. The Queen remained stoic, but Celine leaned forward with intense interest. This confirms what some of our oldest legends suggest, Dr. Myra said. Finally, there are stories of visitors from beyond the stars who came to Celestia thousands of years ago. Most consider them myths, but perhaps they were humans. Celine finished, her eyes wide with wonder. Queen Valora raised a hand for silence. We must investigate this thoroughly before making any announcements. If true, it changes our understanding of our own history. After the meeting, Celine walked with Linda through the crystal corridors, her excitement palpable. Do you understand what this means, Linda? She asked. We may already be distant cousins. Our species might have mixed successfully before. Linda urged caution. We don't know enough yet. The genetic similarities could have other explanations, but Celine was already thinking ahead. If my ancestors include humans, that explains my differences and perhaps why I feel such connection to your species. It feels right, Linda, as if I have always known somehow. 2 days later, as the research continued, Linda received an urgent message. General Cora had called for an emergency council session. Rumors of the genetic discovery had leaked. The council chamber was tense when Linda arrived with Dr. Stone. Celestian counselors argued loudly among themselves, while Queen Valora attempted to maintain order. When Linda and Dr. Stone were called to present their findings, Linda could feel the hostility from General Chorus supporters. They viewed the information as a threat to Celestian identity. After Dr. Stone explained the science, General Chorus stood. This changes nothing except to prove that human contamination nearly destroyed us once before we survived and purified our line until now, when some would have us deliberately repeat the mistake. Science, Minister Lyra countered, or it proves that hybridization saved us when our genetics were failing in the past. Perhaps these ancient visitors helped our ancestors as humans might help us now. The debate grew heated until Princess Celine stepped forward, her presence commanding attention. Despite her smaller stature, I have made my decision, she announced clearly. Regardless of ancient history, I volunteer to be the first in the new collaboration. She looked directly at General Cora. Our pure Celestian. Genetics are failing us, General. We can hold to pride and die out, or we can adapt and survive. A murmur ran through the council, some nodding in agreement, others looking uncertain. Linda watched, realizing that this moment would determine the future. Relationship between humans and Celestians, perhaps even their survival as a species. That night, as Celestia's moons rose, Linda sat with Princess Celine in the gardens, both silent for a long time, contemplating the weight of recent discoveries. Do you ever wonder, Celine asked finally, if some things are meant to be? If our species were always destined to find each other again? Linda looked up at the stars visible through the crystal dome above them. I don't know about destiny, she said honestly, but I believe in possibility and different paths coming together at the right moments. Eileen smiled, touching one of the crystal plants that glowed softly in response. Well said, Ambassador Parker. Whatever happens next, our paths are now joined. As Linda returned to her quarters, she thought about how quickly everything had changed in just a few months. Two species that had never met face to face were now contemplating a shared genetic future. It was terrifying and wonderful. All at once. The true meaning of first contact, not just meeting but becoming something new together.